Over the last few years, one of the things that I've tried to do is find a more economical way to build single-family homes. And I've traveled to California, Arizona, Texas, Florida, and even Canada to personally visit job sites where alternative building methods are being used. Things like hay bale construction and 3D concrete printing. But in the end, I've come to the conclusion that there really isn't a magic bullet. Houses are going to be expensive. That said, there are things that we can do to make the building process more efficient and keep the price as low as it can be. And the best way that I've found to do that is utilizing modular construction. So I'd like to invite you to join me in touring the Cavco Factory in Crouse, North Carolina. And I'll begin by pointing out one of the biggest advantages of modular construction. It's indoors. You might have noticed on my drive over that it's raining today. But everything in this factory is dry. All the materials being used are dry, and unlike a home that is framed on site, there's no danger of parts of the project getting wet and then being covered up before they've dried out and creating issues with mold or mildew or even warped lumber. This is a big advantage. Okay, so we're going to start at the right backhand side of the factory and work our way around through the entire process. And here is where they are building additions, dormers that could go on your home. And you might notice that aside from the fact that they're finished and not attached to a house, that these look like they're framed and finished out pretty conventionally, because they are. So let me take a moment to explain the difference between a manufactured home, which some people refer to as a mobile home, and a modular home, which is what is being built here at Cavco. A manufactured home is built to HUD standards, and HUD is a 50-state standard, and it's not as rigorous as regular conventional building codes. And don't get me wrong, a manufactured home can be a fine home. There's nothing wrong with that. I lived in a double wide myself for 5 years. But there are some disadvantages. Generally, the construction of a manufactured home is less durable than other homes. And that's reflected by lower resale values. And it can also sometimes be harder to get a loan to buy a manufactured home. On top of that, many jurisdictions put limitations on manufactured homes or don't even allow them at all. A modular home, on the other hand, is built to the standards of your local building code. And that means when it's finished, legally, it is no different than a home that was framed on site. It's no different for getting a loan, it's no different for selling, and they appraise and rise in value at the same rates as homes that are built on site. Okay, that aside, we've been walking through the next section of the factory, and this is where the cabinets are being built. Yes, Cavco is building their own cabinets from scratch on site. And here's where some of that efficiency really comes into play. You'll see that they are cutting all of the cabinet parts out on a CNC machine, putting them on the carts, and then they get assembled. There's no wasted time or material here at all. And our next stop is where the house actually begins, the start of the entire process. The frames are built on a rack that keeps everything perfectly square. And I'd like to point out, notice that these frames have a double band. That's not something that you're going to get on a site-built home. And in addition to keeping everything perfectly square, they're using semi-automated nail guns to ensure that every piece of the subfloor is nailed exactly the way it's supposed to be. And they've got lasers that make sure all your utilities, such as vent holes, are perfectly placed. Next, the floor gets insulated, the HVAC registers are installed, and then if this box happens to be getting sheet vinyl, that'll be installed now before the walls are built. If it's getting any other kind of flooring, that'll be done later. And here, I'd like to point out that your exterior walls are 2x6 construction. That not only means that they're stronger, but it also means that there can be more insulation and the home can be more energy efficient. And a couple other things of note here. You'll notice evidence of glue on the back of this sheetrock from the inside of the home, and that's because these panels are not just screwed, they are also glued on with a urethane glue. And while this is done primarily to minimize cracking while it's being moved to its final location, once this home is installed, you're going to have walls that are far less likely to crack from settling in the years to come. And another thing I'd like to point out, the date code on this sheetrock shows that at the time that this is being built, it's less than a week old. The materials being used to build the home haven't been sitting around in an unclimate-controlled warehouse, or worse yet, sitting outside for months before being used. The next station is where they are constructing custom showers. Cavco's determined that they can do a better job and be more efficient if they build these showers as individual modules that then get installed further on in the process, just like you would install a fiberglass bathtub or shower. At the next station of the factory is where the walls actually are installed, and it starts to look like the home it's going to be. And the goal in the factory is for each module, each box, to move one station over every 2 hours. And this means that once your home goes under production, it will literally be done in a matter of days. Walls finished, it moves over one station where the ceiling and roof are put in place. And no, this home is not going to have a flat roof. These roof panels are hinged, and when they arrive on location, they'll be stood up and have a standard 7/12 roof pitch. But you can get into others. You can get a 5/12 or a 9/12 or even a 12/12 roof pitch if that's what you want. But it won't be the 3/12 pitch that you see on a lot of manufactured homes. As the home moves down the line, at the next station, they begin electrical and plumbing work. This is followed by insulation and then sheeting. That's the plywood that covers the roof and exterior walls of the home. Now, another thing that Cavco is doing is putting sheeting on the marriage walls. Marriage walls are the walls where two boxes are joined. So if your home had 2 boxes or 3 boxes, where those were joined together, those walls would be marriage walls. By sheeting those walls, they've made the structure far more rigid. It's much stronger. And as it moves down the line, the bulk of the roof will be put on. It will need to be finished once those roof panels are stood on end. And as all of the things you just saw have been happening, inside, they've been finishing the sheetrock. So at the next station, that sheetrock is sanded, primed, and then left to dry. And as we come back downstairs, you may notice on the right-hand side here, pallets of cabinetry. Those are the ones that we saw built way back at the beginning, and they're waiting their turn to be installed in the home. And as we move along, we find the station where all the trim is prepared and doors are built. And at this point, the home really starts to take shape. You get exterior doors, windows, siding, cabinetry's put in, lighting, flooring, and by the time we get done with these sections, you have an almost completely finished home. And as we step inside this home, you might notice that all the walls and all the trim are white, and that's because they've been primed but not painted. Painting is something that will happen on site after the home has been delivered. Oh, and also, the kitchens in these homes come with all the appliances, even the refrigerator. Once the box is finished, it's placed on a temporary frame that will be used to transport it to its final location. When it gets there, it'll be removed from the frame and placed on a traditional permanent foundation. While the house has been constructed at the Cavco factory, on site, utilities have been prepared the foundation has been built, and if necessary, well and septic work have begun. The home is then placed on the foundation with a crane, and the separate boxes are fastened together. And at this point, we will make the final electrical and plumbing connections. The HVAC will be installed, the siding will be finished, gutters added, steps and porches will be put on, and the home will be painted and ready to move in. And there we have it. And while this home isn't inexpensive, it is accessible to a lot of people who may not realize that they could be homeowners. If you can afford your rent in a nice apartment complex and you have reasonably decent credit, there's a good chance you could buy a home just like this one. In fact, let me introduce you to two people who actually toured the factory with me today, Mark and Jen McDonald. Jen is a real estate broker with bloombloomhere.com, and she can help you find land. Mark is a regional manager for Atlantic Bay Mortgage, and he can help you with down payments as low as 0 to 3.5% on single close new construction loans. So if you're ready to explore the possibility of building your own home, maybe a first home or a downsizer or an accessory dwelling unit in your backyard, or maybe a tiny home on a foundation, give us a call at Housetopia and see if we can help you.